I think some of you will remember, probably up to 2 years ago, Matt talked about Banbury Reservoir Park. And I think this is really what we want to say, because we think it's a project which could be at the heart of some transformational activity across communities, the council, voluntary groups, and national and local other groups. It was a proposal originally from London CPRE, the Campaign for Protection of Rural England, now called the Countryside Charity, London region, back in 2021. And the idea is to create a 60-hectare, which is big, district park on poorly used, and I can't emphasize the poorly probably enough, because it really is poorly used land. It's car parks, it's rubbish tips, and yet it is green belt, some of it, which borders Upper Edmonton. So that area that's been identified embraces the Banbury Reservoir, hence the name, the River Lee navigation, the River Lee, Pims Brook. And what Matt and CPRE did together was to identify a proposal and some principles, which is I think a 15-page document, which Francis can circulate, and was circulated to the group yesterday because they showed a lot of interest. But the headlines of it, first of all, I don't think we need to tell anyone in this group the benefits of accessible green space. It's well established: good health, well-being, biodiversity, climate adaptation, leisure, social and commercial use. The benefits apply particularly to a densely populated area like Upper Edmonton, which is currently deprived, I don't think that's an unreasonable word, of green space. 7 times less green space than the oh, there we are, that's helpful, Francis, thank you. 7 times less than the local and national authority standards. I'm sure we all find that wholly unacceptable. It's also an area that's classified amongst the most socially, economically deprived wards in England, and the health inequalities between the east and the west of Enfield, I'm sure you know about too, and also completely unacceptable. The relevant authorities are Lee Valley Regional Park, Enfield Council and Waltham Forest Council, and they have all acknowledged the strategic value of creating parkland. Waltham Forest have actually begun, and they've already included it in their 2022 local plan. When you add to that the fact that around 11,000 homes are scheduled to be built in the Enfield part of that area, in the immediate area, over the next decade or so. So the population density is going to go up enormously, and that obviously increases the need for high quality leisure space. And if you're going to have something meaningful for communities in 10, 20 years' time, the time to start is now. You can't suddenly magic up a country park. It needs a lot of planning. As far as the planning is concerned, those who initiated the project, and Matt, I'm sure, will enlarge on this, they're keen that it should be community-led. It's not a top-down proposal. There's real appetite for involving the communities locally and determining what's needed for them, by them, as it were. We feel at the moment there are no impediments. The proposal is consistent with the ambitions and the strategic priorities of Enfield and Waltham Forest Councils, the Lee Valley Regional Authority, the Mayor of London, and the national planning policies. Even before the CPRE developed this proposal, the Lee Valley Regional Authority had begun to had written about something very similar in style and purpose. I think what we'd want to say is the potential is beyond huge. the possibilities for jobs, for tourism, local identity. And I chuckle to myself because I think, well, think about a canal basin like Camden Lock or Maida Vale. Now, ours would be better than that because it would be an enormous green space. And we think that's absolutely extraordinary. But it's a piece of greenbelt countryside on the outskirts of North London, and as I say, led by the local community. So we do hope that it feels like it's an idea whose time has come. It's a bit of a no-brainer. It's an enormous ask. But we do hope to galvanise sufficient public interest through a coalition of groups and individuals like yourselves and the people who we met yesterday, the Canal and Rivers Trust. Francis can tell you a little bit more about that, and others not here, to harness the resources necessary to enable this park to be created. One last element I think it's worth saying is that some time ago, CPRE contacted the Land Use Working Group through another member, Carol Fisk, and the Enfield Society, and Dave is involved as well, Dave Cockle. The CPRE contacted us and said, had we any ideas for parts of Enfield that could be considered for their forthcoming projects to create more woodlands around London. And so we put our heads together and came up with a list, and they expressed some interest in it. So tomorrow we're going to be taking them, or I'm going to be taking them around all the various sites in Enfield that we think might be possible for mini forests, tiny forests, for lining roads like the A10, but very specifically as well, Banbury Reservoir Park. So we feel that, a good start would be a community hub with all the interested parties to start to get this most enormous ball rolling.